our first home we bought, same deal. Kitchen, sink base, made of Particleboard. At the time, I was working at this lumber yard that had a millwork shop, and the guys were pretty handy. And I brought this box in, and the guy said, "The dumpster's over there." Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply of the craft and science of working on houses. This is Senior Editor Patrick McComb. I'm joined by Associate Editor Matt Milham.
What up?
Colin Russell, Director of Video.
Hey there.
And producer Jeff Rose.
Hey, everybody.
You can email us your questions at fhbpodcast@taunton.com. You can find previous podcasts and check out the show notes at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. Thanks for being with me today, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So, should we mention why we're wearing the same clothes
Sure, why
two
not?
weeks in a row?
Yeah.
So, for the first time ever, we're recording two podcasts in the same day here at the offices at Taunton Press. And Colin wasn't in the first one, but you're on the second one. Thank you for being here.
And I'm still wearing the same thing I was during the first recording that I wasn't a part of.
I didn't want to bring that up. That's the same outfit you were wearing last time you were on, right?
Yeah, probably.
We should have at least swapped shirts or something like that.
I know. I'm just an idiot. I just forgot. Most folks wouldn't even know, right?
They're going to see it if they look at it on YouTube or whatever. Yeah.
But that's not going to diminish the quality of bad information you get today.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be just as bad as usual.
Just as bad as usual.
That's why I'm here.
And thank you for that. You were telling me recently that you're going to paint your house this year.
Unfortunately, that's next up. You know, I've been remodeling my whole house. The exterior is in dire need of paint.
What is the siding?
Cedar shakes.
Have they ever been painted?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
To clarify, shakes or shingles? Shakes are
Shingles, I'm sorry.
hand split versus sawn for shingles.
These are sawn. They're shingles.
And they have been painted.
Yes. They were pre-primed. A lot of the remodeling on the house, like I put a 2-story addition, so all of that siding came primed, and I painted it 16 years ago.
Oh, wow. How's it held up? Very
well. Mm-hmm. The old part of the house, not so good. I had some moisture issues. I think we actually talked about it in a much earlier podcast where I didn't have a basement, dirt floor.
Right.
And a lot of the
Your house is on piers.
It's on piers. It's sort of like it was a
beach house.
Yeah, it was a beach house. It was 3-season at one point. And so anyway, all that moisture from the ground would come up through the house and then push out through the walls and sort of was pushing the paint off.
Sure.
That's what I think anyway. And so anyway, I took care of that. So that's no longer an issue. And I have a lot of scraping, sanding, priming, a lot of patchwork.
So you're going down to bare wood?
You know, I started, last fall I started sanding, and that was a bear. I mean, I probably did 20 hours to get like a 10 by 15 area.
Oh, my God.
And when you sand the shingles, they just don't look the same.
Right, because they have the saw marks in them that make them look normal.
Yeah, and it sort of gives it a softer look. I mean, I've seen it happen a lot in other houses, so I have one area of my house that looks like that. I'm actually considering utilizing, and this maybe is a future topic, is one of those primers that is meant for peeling or chipping paint. Like when you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Peel bond.
Peel bond.
So and this product is a clear product, and it's meant to go over alligatored, well-adhered paint and smooth it out.
Yeah.
But you can't put it on peeling paint. It doesn't solve that problem.
Okay, so I was going to TSP solution, scrape, minimal sanding, a lot of scraping, minimal sanding. Then in the areas that didn't come off well, I'd use that. I believe. So I'm looking at doing some prep work here.
Oh, man, that's going to be a huge job. How are you going to get to the higher parts of the house?
I was thinking of a ladder. They developed that, I believe, in the 1700s.
But as you know, like working on large areas of the house on a ladder is slow and challenging.
Well, luckily my house, most of it's just a 1-story, so it's not a big deal. But up near the peak, the gable ends of the addition, I'm going to build some scaffolding, like
out of wood.
Yeah, off the ridge of my house, coming off to the edge, and I'll just make a plank that I can walk across and you know, of course, to get to the peak, I'll need
You have to put a ladder on top of the plank.
or a 5-gallon bucket, you know. Safety first. So that's my spring project, yes.
Have you guys picked colors and stuff? Has that been an issue?
We're working on it. We're sticking kind of gray, but does the gray go a little blue? Mm-hmm. A
There's
little
many
green?
kinds
Yeah.
of gray.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
50 shades at least.
And I think there's sequels, so that means it's got to be like 100 or 150 now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're picking the color now. We're actually going to do a test area. I have a couple test areas on the house now. We don't like anything we've chosen so far, but we think we found one we like it. I mean, the truth is I'm just ready to go.
Dig it.
Yeah, but
So how will you know what time of year is warm enough? I mean,
basically, I'm going to be doing this on weekends. So if it's not raining, I'm going to be painting regardless.
trying to get it done.
Yeah.
Have you read the Philip Hansel feature on, I think it was Tips from a Pro Painter, and then there's a sidebar on painting your own house. You should check that out.
Oh, I will. Absolutely.
We'll put that up on the podcast notes to
Oh,
look
great.
at that article, because
Yeah.
he's got some advice on how to make it doable.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'm really
He does a better job than you're going to do.
Oh
though.
my God. I mean, I'm actually considering, like, is spraying an option for me too, you know, but
So a pro would not do anything but spray, is my guess. But you're not going to get as much paint on there.
yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know.
I would want to spray it because I just want a sprayer.
You want to come spray my house? I'll let you.
Yeah, I'll come screw up your house. You're doing all the prep, right?
I am, yeah.
I think spraying will be no problem. You can scrape it off the windows generally.
Oh, really? So I don't have to tape off?
Nah, just paint right over them.
Says Patrick. His wife owns a paint scraping company.
Yeah.
And you've been landscaping, right? Because I can tell by the
Yeah.
oozy wounds on your arms.
Yeah, you can call it landscaping. It's basically just walking into the woods with a chainsaw and hacking away at anything that I don't like.
So are you dealing with invasive species? Is that the...
Yeah, a lot of grapevines and a lot of, I don't know what they are, some kind of gigantic pricker bush that grows so big it basically grows up into the trees and then weighs them down and pulls them over.
Does
and
it
kills
have
them.
berries associated with this prickerness?
I have no idea because I haven't been back there to see it during the growing season. But right now, there's no leaves on them, so I can take them out.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Is that giving you poison ivy yet?
Yeah, well, I came in contact with some poison ivy, some thick poison ivy vines that were also growing up an apple tree that's in my woods that I wanted to save. So
Sure.
in the process of taking that down.
So
even
did
though
you use the Zanfell soap this time?
I did. Didn't help. As soon as I took this stuff out, as soon as I knew I'd come into contact with poison ivy, I ran inside and took a shower and used the Zanful. I think I also used Technu, and I used Gojo.
Okay.
So Gojo first.
On
then
different
Technu,
parts of
then
your body?
Zanful.
Is it like a control?
Well, no, on my.
I think that's what you should do.
I used it on all of these on both arms because I assumed that it had touched both.
Maybe you have chemical burns.
Yeah,
maybe.
seriously. Got
That's
some
not poison ivy.
synergistic effect of these treatments.
Yeah, but a lot of the places where the prickers got me kind of got infected, so that was gross.
Oh, I bet.
And then I got a little bit of poison ivy. So, yep.
So the Zanfell soap, we should tell folks, is meant to treat poison ivy, and it's very expensive, right?
Oh yeah, it's gritty. It did work last summer when I got poison ivy. I had it all over my face last year, and so I mostly used that actually on my face this time, and I didn't get poison ivy
you
on my
didn't
face.
get
So
it this time.
So I don't know if I had actually used it on my arms to begin with. I used the Technu and I used the.
And you're supposed to keep
Gojo.
using it. It's not just a one-time treatment. You're supposed to keep using it, right? A few times a day?
Yeah, it depends on whether you're pre-symptomatic or symptomatic, I think. Like, if you don't have it yet, I think,
Okay.
you can use it.
Just once.
Yeah, and then hopefully you don't get it.
Right.
And then if you already have it, then yeah, you probably have to go multiple treatments.
I wonder why poison ivy is on the planet, but it must serve some important purpose, right?
And keep Matt away from.
The vegetation.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to do something here, Matt. You're getting in the way. Go home and scratch.
So 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was on a photo shoot in Pittsburgh, and you guys remember hearing me talk about my power pack explode.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have the courage to talk about it at the time, but that wasn't the only thing to happen on that trip.
Something else exploded?
So you guys may remember my wife and I spent many hours last year installing a blue flagstone patio.
Yes.
And as far as I was concerned, it was almost finished. We had just a few stones to put this spring.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came home from this trip, and my wife had pulled up almost all of it.
And took pictures of herself doing it?
I took pictures of her doing it because I was like, no one's going to believe this.
Yeah.
And I also think it's pretty. So.
You're speechless.
I didn't know what to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Good job, honey.
Except, that's wonderful, sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
So she's redoing it herself, so I got no complaints. But that project is not done, but it is wrapping up.
So what did you do underneath there? How deep did you go? What are the layers?
My soil is all sand, and it's well-graded sand. So aside from scraping off the topsoil and putting down landscape fabric and stone dust, we did very little. But she did cut and fill to make the patio space more level even before we started.
Okay.
So we had all these stones arranged around a center fire ring made of steel, and she didn't like it in the center of the patio because it messed up the flow, and it did make it much smaller than the amount of hardscaping would indicate, right? Because there wasn't enough room to set up 2 or 3 chairs around a little table or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So,
Sure.
So she's redoing it all, and I'm letting her. I haven't touched any of it, but I did take pictures of the effort that's going on.
Yeah, it looks like something. You got some big stones there.
She does, or
Sorry, I was looking at Matt.
yeah, but she's moving these freaking, I don't know, they got to be 100+ pound stones by herself.
Rather large.
Yes, that's better her than me. My back hurts watching the whole process So I was getting dinner ready and folding laundry yesterday while she was doing this,
Interesting.
which I think is a better deal for me.
Hey. Sounds like a good dynamic.
She's tough. I don't think we could have ever had a 20-year marriage without her busting butt on projects like this. And that's been the case our whole marriage. I think the first week we moved into our house, I left her with all the stuff in boxes and piled in our living room, and I went on a week-long trip to the Builder Show in Las Vegas. I think that was, and she's had to clean up my messes ever since and fix the patio.
Well, you did put the fireplace in the wrong spot.
I know.
Yeah, rookie mistake.
I wish, why didn't we had the fire ring in the center of the patio before the stone was laid for months to see how it worked, but I don't know, somehow different when the stone was around it.
Yeah.
Pick your battles, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
What did the car talk guys say? You can be right or happy. I think that's a good mantra. So we heard from a couple folks on, once again, on our discussion of estimating. Have you heard of that ongoing conversation we've had?
Actually, this is new to me this morning.
So a reader wrote in and be like, I do these really specific estimates. Other contractors and my subs say it's crazy. Am I crazy? But I really want to give my clients the best perspective of what's going on here. And so that was the conversation of, do you give a lot of detail? Do you just give a single number like many of his competitors do? And so people have been writing in and talking about that, their process for that. And we heard from someone else. One of the things in our most recent conversation, Matt may remember, were you on that one? We're talking about no one else does free estimates. There are no other industry.
I don't know if I was on that, but I also don't know if that's totally true.
Well, it's clearly not, because someone wrote in to say, hi, FHB podcast crew. I'm a worker owner at a professional consulting business and also going through the process of finding and hiring a contractor for a new home build. So I've been thinking a lot about the similarities and differences how we do contracting and estimating in the web development and professional services world versus how you all do it in the construction trades. So I really have enjoyed the ongoing conversation about estimating you're having. I wanted to weigh in on the idea from episode 170 that free estimates are unique to construction. In my experience, that is definitely not the case. At my day job, we usually put a number of hours into estimating and proposal development, especially for new clients and large jobs. It's common for us in research and software development consulting to be asked to submit detailed proposals as part of the RFP process. And it's also, unfortunately, not that unusual for clients to go with an RFP process and then decide that the whole project is out of their budget to begin with.
Sure.
I'm frustrated, as you are all, with putting in free hours, but I can't really think of a better model. We just treat it as a cost of doing business. Maybe there could be a small set fee attached to doing an estimate/proposal to keep it fair for all the competing parties. And then at the end of the day, that money wouldn't really compensate for their time, and collecting it wouldn't get complicated. And on the flip side, as someone contracting a new home build, I can't imagine how I'd afford to pay 3 different contractors for their time in preparing estimates. Well, let's hit that one first. So I would say don't do that. I was like, find a builder you're comfortable with based on referrals or whatever, and then pay them to estimate your project. The 3 bids thing, that's what they tell us all to do, but I don't know. Why waste someone's time who you're not going to hire, and why waste someone's time that you are?
Yeah. I mean, they're making up that cost somehow. That cost of estimating is getting thrown into their overhead.
Someone's paying
somewhere.
it.
So someone's paying for it. You may not be paying for it, but the next person who hires that person probably is.
Yeah, I would agree.
As long as it's built in the budget. You know, I mean, his frustration is he's talking about not being compensated, so clearly he's feeling that he's not being compensated.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our listeners and who are contractors would agree.
Yeah.
You're spending time and money on things that don't prove to be fruitful.
Right. But that's why I'm saying you build that into
the cost.
Your cost. Yeah.
Do you think that there is a future where all contractors get paid for the estimating and like, figuring out a job?
I don't know. I mean, that's something either everybody has to make a decision that that's the way they're going to go, or
no one does.
And nobody does, or it would have to be something that's regulated, and nobody wants that either.
Right.
So I don't know how you approach that.
I think the regulation of that would be just monstrous. How,
Yeah.
And then you're going to have guys who will be like, hey, don't worry, we won't go do that on this one. I'll just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are going to undercut it too easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
So this letter from Tim actually made me recall that we have advertising partners that we routinely,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't think about our own business of publishing, right?
Sure.
So you're more familiar with that process than I am, and
Well-
that's why I didn't remember.
Well, just simply in video production, sure, if I'm going after a job, I'm going to give a budget, that's sometimes it's very detailed, sometimes it's not. It really depends on the client, what the job is. If I'm throwing my, just there's 3 estimates going in, I'm not going to probably put as much care into it.
Compared to what a job you think you have, or that is a good fit.
But it also, I think if I decide to do a very detailed estimate, it's because I think I have something valuable to share, including where the costs are going and why it costs what it costs. It could be a really good document to, figure out the ins and outs of the job and really inform the client.
It's interesting you say that, because one of our best emails regarding the subject was from someone who said you need a detailed scope of work.
Yes.
So that everybody is on the same page, right?
Right.
You know what you're getting, and the client can have some confidence that what you're doing is correct.
It does. It shows your thought process. It shows that you care, I think there's a lot of value in that. In a way, perhaps maybe you're weeding out clients.
Yes.
Yes. But being compensated for it, like Matt said, it just needs to be part of your overhead.
Yeah.
So maybe your overall cost goes up a little bit to make room for free estimates.
To make room for jobs you're not going to get. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So thank you for writing and reminding us, Tim, that there are indeed other industries that work for free. We shouldn't. Barbara writes, "Hey guys, a friend of mine in Atlanta just sent me some pictures I had to share with you. He went to wire up fire alarms at a new Crunch fitness facility and found this blueprint table. I love it. Notice the top is not plywood, it's drywall. My friend surmises that the sheetrockers made it. Did you guys see this thing?
It did.
I love this thing.
Yeah.
There's also a table made out of more steel studs and a pallet. I think this is brilliant job site furniture. I would agree, Barbara, wholeheartedly. It reminds me how much scrap material that there is on big commercial jobs. I got all the siding and roofing for my very small house as leftovers from commercial building projects. You mentioned steel studs in a basement on your last podcast. I never worked with steel studs, only steel roofing. I can't help worrying that the whole job site would be unbelievably loud. I have enough hearing damage already from using an impact driver on wood. Isn't it even worse screwing together metal? What about the cutting? I can see how you'd manage that working alone in your basement, but those guys putting up partition walls that crunch fitless probably can't hear anything over 10 kilohertz already. Talk to us about tinnitus. Have you got it? I do.
I have it.
Yeah. So what is it?
A constant ringing in the ears.
And do we know why you get it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's all types of theories that it's stress related or it's hearing impairment from loud noises. I've heard several different
Do you have
theories
it?
on it.
Yeah, mildly. I think it's like whatever those little hairs are that are kind of like picking up the sound waves. Supposedly it's them dying or having died.
Really?
It's that. I
So
don't know
they're
if
like
that's true.
screaming because I shaved all
Yeah,
mine.
I think it's just, yeah.
I have to deal with that one. I
Yeah.
should stop doing that.
Yep.
So, do you think your tinnitus comes from listening to artillery and helicopters, or is it power tools?
Some of it may be helicopter related, but I think more of it, is probably just power tools and not always wearing ear protection. Because most of the time I wore ear protection. There were a few helicopter flights that went a little longer than I thought they were going to. They were going to be like quick hops that turned into like all day affairs.
What is the decibel level in a chopper?
I don't know, but you can't talk to the person next to you. You probably can't even really yell to the person next to you unless you have a headset on. Yep. It's pretty loud.
So is yours all the time?
It is, but luckily sometimes you just don't notice it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I decide to listen,
You hear it.
it's there, and sometimes it sneaks up on you at bad times, like
When
trying to go to sleep, and you start going nuts, you know?
And is yours all the time?
Really only when it's quiet do I really notice it. Like if I thought about it right now, I could probably hear it, but I would have to be thinking about it.
Mine's very intermittent, and it seems to go away. Like it'll be going on for a little bit, then it stops, and I don't know how to explain that. But
Yeah.
my uncle, who's instrumental in my introduction to the construction industry, is got it all the time, and it's really uncomfortable for him. It's something I wouldn't want to have to deal with.
You know, I've heard of some type of ear device. Like it's like a hearing aid, but somehow it
Cancels it out, or
supposedly. I don't know.
he's got
if they
stuff,
work.
and he says it doesn't work. And
Yeah, it's
and-
too bad.
And he can't hear either because the ringing is louder than people.
Wait,
And you know, the phone is the worst. Like it doesn't want to talk on the phone at all.
sure.
He never wanted to talk on the phone when he could hear, so
Yeah.
that'd be a good excuse, right?
But do you think screwing together steel studs is louder than just banging nails?
So this is a good question, right? I've worked with steel studs quite a bit, and yeah, if you cut them on a miter saw, it's absolutely deafening, right? But you wear hearing protection, and you cut a bundle at a time.
Yeah.
You know, they're banded together in groups of 10, and the saw will usually accommodate a whole bundle, and it's and then you're done. But if that's too annoying, you can cut them with tin snips, and that's virtually silent.
Yeah.
The screwing together, that's just driving screws, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's loud, but it's certainly no louder than anything else. But
Yeah.
I think, you know, working in a commercial building with 10 people working on it, yeah, it's probably deafening.
The same hand, 10 guys cutting wood and
Nailing it together,
Nailing
yeah.
them together is very loud.
Yep.
I've never seen a table made on a job site out of steel studs, though. I'm thinking I need some furniture. Thanks for the letter, Barbara. Our first question today comes from James. Hi, guys. I love the show. I'm a big fan of what your team does and the quality of information being put out. I'm 36 years old and have been at a desk job for 12 years, and I'm seriously considering a move towards a career in the trades. I'm a homeowner. My house was built in 1910, although I have minimal experience with building and renovation. My most recent project was opening up a living room / dining room to make one full room, adding oak beams to tie the two rooms together. I'm still shop vacuuming up the lath and plaster. The next project will be the kitchen. What is your advice on how to shift from my current job to a more fulfilling career in building, carpentry, or custom renovation? Do I go back to school and take a carpenter apprenticeship, leading to a Red Seal certification, or just start looking for companies who are hiring and learning right away? I have a few contacts already with Fine Homebuilding and architects, and my sister-in-law's family owns a reputable lumberyard and building facility. Cheers. Matt, I'll let you go first. I think you're the most recent to make this kind of career switch.
Yeah. No, for me, my main motivation initially was to build my own house. And I, could go to school basically.
We should tell
for
people
free.
who aren't familiar. So when you got out of the Army, you worked for several years as a civilian for the Army, right?
Yeah, as a reporter for the military publication Stars and Stripes.
And so you did that for how long?
What was that? Another 4 years.
And then
after I
you
got
went
out.
to technical school.
Yep. And then I went to basically trade school.
Where?
SUNY Delhi in the Catskill Mountains of New York.
And that facility's been there a long time.
Yeah, I don't know, post World War II maybe, somewhere in that era.
And what can you learn there?
All kinds of stuff. They have like veterinary programs, electrical, HVAC, plumbing,
Masonry.
residential construction, masonry,
Furniture making?
construction management, and then they've got a whole bunch of other programs that I was not really associated with in any way. But yeah,
So what would you tell this gentleman?
I think trade school is a good way to go if you want to learn sort of the basics pretty quickly. You're going to learn, I think, if you throw yourself into it, a lot more in a program like that than you may learn on the job, depending on who you're working for. Some builders are really good at taking their time and explaining things to you and basically teaching you, or you may end up in a place where you're just running base for like 3 years until they kind of trust you.
Or worse, picking up garbage.
Yeah. So it's I can't say that one is better than the other. I can say that for me, going to work, while I was in trade school, for various builders, most of the guys on the crews could not understand why I was going to school for it. They're like, that's a dumb way to do it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, some of these guys had been in the trades for almost a decade and couldn't calculate rafter lengths.
Yeah.
They basically did the guess and check, or like hold the tape
Scribe
measure
it
up
up
to
there.
hold the tape measure up to the ridge and pull down and like guess and check their plumb cuts. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And you whereas you learned that, you feel adequately to do that on a real job site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we built all kinds of stuff and we used those skills. And so I know I can do it. Mm-hmm. And I remember all of that now because it's been almost 2 years since I graduated.
Yeah. And anyone who hasn't done something for 2 years is going to have some head scratching at first, right?
Yep.
So, and that program was 2 years?
That was a 2-year program. Yep.
And you come out with a associate's degree?
Yeah. Yep. So I did it all backwards. that was my third time at school. So I got my bachelor's, my master's, and then my associates.
So what would you tell him?
Well, it sounds like he's got a different thing going on. It sounds like he's in Canada. So I have no idea what...
I had to look what up the Red Seal was, so we'll get to that.
Yeah. I would say talk to Ellie the apprentice. Like, hit her up on Instagram and see what she has to tell you.
You should tell him who Ellie is.
Yeah, so she is in an apprenticeship program.
In Canada.
In Canada. And she's, documents her entire... Yeah, she learns all kinds of stuff, and she's documenting pretty much her entire experience on Instagram.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And insightful. I mean, you can see sort of like...
What it's like.
Yeah.
What do you think? What would you do?
Well, me personally, I never quite fit into school systems, and I don't really like that environment. Mm-hmm. I just don't like. I can't stay awake. Honestly, I prefer,
you want to do the work.
I want to do the work, but like, I guess for this guy, I would wonder what his goal is. Like, does he want to become a craftsman, work with his hands, get really good at something, or does he want to like a general knowledge and run a business? Or learn a specific trade and run a business. I think depending on where he wants to be in 10 years would depend on the move.
Yeah.
If you can hook up with a like design build team where you're going to execute projects on every level.
Right.
Maybe not lay tile, but you're going to be doing a lot of different things. Then you're going to at least get to try many different things in case there's one thing you really like
Or are really good at.
Yeah. But funny enough, I'd say he should watch the Why Build series we did last year. We interviewed 10 different craftspeople, followed their personal passion, why they do what they do.
And how they got their start, I presume.
A little bit of how they got their start. They're only about 5 minutes each, but you get 10 different trades, 10 different perspectives. And I think those are inspirational. I don't think they'll answer anything for you, but it might help them out a little bit, And it's really, what does he have open to him? If he has a school nearby and he can afford to go to school before working, yeah, sure, why not? But I'd probably want to be getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how those apprenticeship programs work up there, but and in New York, it's pretty much commercial building only, I think. I don't think there's any residential apprenticeship programs, but you learn a lot of the same skills, and in most of those programs, you're getting paid while you're learning. So
That's what I say.
Yeah.
Get paid to learn.
Yep.
And especially if you can get in a union, a trade union, and have benefits and retirement benefits that most contractors who work in residential sector don't have any of that stuff. And you don't have any health care. So like in Canada, that's not an issue, but it certainly is in the U.S. Let's talk about the Red Seal thing. So like you guys, I had no idea what that was. So here's what it is. The Red Seal program sets common standards to assess the skills of tradespeople across Canada. It is a partnership between the federal government and provinces and territories, which are responsible for apprenticeship training and trade certification in their jurisdictions. Tradespeople who have successfully passed the Red Seal examination receive a Red Seal endorsement on their provincial territorial trade certificates. The Red Seal, when affixed to a provincial or territorial trade certificate, indicates that the tradesperson has demonstrated the knowledge required for the national standard in that trade. The Red Seal endorsement promotes excellence to employers, instills pride in skilled workers, and facilitates labor mobility. Now, that's the part I found most interesting. So, unlike in the U.S., where you have very regional, certifications or what do you call that?
Accreditation.
Some form of accreditation that allows you to practice your craft, right? It's very limited in scope. It's like maybe for a municipality, maybe a state, right? Mm-hmm. It allows you to go from anywhere in Canada to anywhere else in Canada, depending on where the work is, which I thought that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a fantastic model.
Yeah. So I would say if you can get in that or get that, do it. And I would say if you can get in some kind of paid apprenticeship with the hope of getting a Red Seal accreditation, do that. I have always valued getting paid to learn what I do, which I still am,
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Get paid.
And good luck to you.
Yeah,
interested
amen.
to see what he does.
We want to hear.
Yeah, let's hear back.
And I think Matt's points about having a trade school teach you a lot of basic stuff quickly would be of utility, especially to a prospective employer, right? If you go in there not knowing anything, for a while you're a liability, right? You're going to mess stuff up.
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
probably going to get hurt, So at least if you go to the program, you get OSHA training too, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what Canada's similar program is, but I think it's labor and industry. They teach you enough to keep you from getting hurt, hopefully, at a minimum. Good question. What?
Nothing.
You think
he just looked at me funny.
He's trying to say, he should be done by now.
Next question.
Question 2. This comes from Joe. Gypsum Joe.
It's his Instagram handle.
I wonder what he does. Think he's a miner? Or is he a drywaller?
Maybe he's a gypsy.
Hey guys, I started listening to your podcast in October and just caught up a few weeks ago. Your hard work is really appreciated. After listening to 169 podcasts, I realize I know less about building a house now than I did in September. Me too. The possibilities of wall and roof assemblies leaves me very overwhelmed. The spectrum of homes being built in Prince Edward Island, Canada is all over the board. Lots of random foam products, but none seem to be the norm, and Zip System hasn't made its way here yet. With plans to be a homeowner this coming year, I'm lost on where to turn for the proper building envelope. Am I supposed to rely on my architect to design the best building envelope? I want to know, who is the Canadian Mike Girton? or who are the Canadian Mike Gertons, Matt Risingers, Steve Basics, and the Martin Holidays of Canada? Regardless if I buy or build, I don't know where to turn to ensure the work done to my structure suits my goals. Please help. Thanks a lot. I find this question so interesting. Do you know why?
Yes.
Because all of the building science we know started in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
With these researchers who, these guys he mentions, all learned from.
Right.
So, who are they? Who are the Matt Risingers and Steve Basics? So, Joe Steebrook is the first one, right?
The founding principal of Building Science Corporation.
Virtually all of the stuff that's in the mainstream residential building has its origins with the classes and books that he and his company have done, right?
Mm-hmm. And almost all these guys, they refer back to him like if you want the real answer or anything they know, they learned probably from Joe. And
John Straub, who also worked for Building Science Corporation, is Canadian also, and he lives in Canada.
So that's the guy.
And interestingly, the earliest research I know with super insulation and super efficient housings is the Saskatchewan, God, what do they call that? Saskatchewan. Anyway, it was this research project in Saskatoon by Harold Orr, where they built a super insulated house during the energy crisis in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, the Germans came here and used it as the model for a passive house.
So was it a passive solar house?
Yes. Okay. Well, a super insulated house, not a passive solar house.
Okay. Because passive solar was first, right?
Well, there were like two schools of research. Passive solar, big windows, get a lot of light in, heat the house that way.
Thermal massing?
Thermal massing. And then super insulated, thick walls, fenestration oriented by elevation, so you'd get gain on the south, but for small windows. So this house is really ugly, but it demonstrated the principles that we're still using today in our super insulated houses. So actually, Canadians are the ones that we have to thank for the
and the
stuff.
Germans get all the credit.
And the Germans get all the credit. Wow. Mm-hmm. So Harold Orr was recently given one of Canada's highest civil source of recognition.
Okay.
I forget what they call their award, but it's like what we describe as our Medal of Freedom, right? Okay. Which is given by our president to people who are civilians but who do important work.
The golden maple leaf.
So, what would you tell this guy?
Well,
where should he turn besides these people that we already have identified?
All right. So before I came working here, right, I designed and built my own cabin. Mm-hmm. Then I came here and started learning about energy efficiency. And, I didn't sleep for a few weeks because I built my house wrong. So that's been ongoing. I'd say every time I learn something about a new wall assembly, I have a new wall assembly, like a new favorite wall assembly. Yeah. So I think that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. It really depends on the design of the house, and it depends on what your goals are.
Yep.
So this guy needs to have his goals perfectly clear, and then depending on the designer or builder you choose, you get somebody who's like-minded, and together you figure out that wall assembly. I think it's a fluid thing. I don't think there's an answer.
One-size-fits-all.
Yeah, no. Find people who think like you, or that you learn from, and design it together.
And certainly seek out the folks who are building high-performance homes on PEI.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they'll have opinions why they do what they do.
Yep.
What do you think?
I think what Colin said is great. The end.
Just all right, moving on.
All right. Well, that's the end of today's podcast.
Mm-hmm. Here's another, somebody wrote recently about the durability of modern materials. And Austin from South Dakota, or is it South? No, yeah, it's Austin from South Dakota is trying to figure out what to do with his new build. Hi, guys. I'm planning a new remodel and trying to coax my wife into disregarding our budget for a few items. We're an average income family in South Dakota, and we know that a luxury home with $10 to $15 per square foot flooring and things of that nature are out of the question. I would tell you, Austin, that I used to think that was expensive too, but there are things that are way more costly than that, even I've seen recently. I would like you guys' input on some of the new, more affordable materials that are available today. Things like laminate or vinyl floors, MDF millwork, and hollow core doors. I've used them all and don't enjoy working with them, much less cutting them and breathing in the byproducts. I prefer to use hardwood or engineered flooring, poplar or finger-jointed primed millwork, and solid core doors. My questions are, what do you guys think of some of the newer materials like laminate and vinyl flooring? Let's take them one at a time, guys, for Austin. So, all right, Colin, what do you think about laminate and vinyl flooring? You have any?
I ripped it all out.
Did you have it? And what did you not? Why did you rip it out?
I just didn't. I wanted to see wood and tile in my house.
What about performance? Did it not perform?
It really didn't have anything to do with that. You know, when I got in my house, I remodeled the whole thing, so I just put down what I wanted to see for the most part.
Yep. And it held up okay?
What I've done?
Well, the stuff that was there.
Well, you know, yes. I think there were those glue-down vinyl tiles, like sort of industrial almost.
Those things are bulletproof.
I mean, I was really impressed. And I think they were pretty old, too,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Those are used in commercial buildings. That is a legendary, time-tested, durable building material.
I've seen them a lot in basements, too, actually. Yeah. And
that is an example of something that is less expensive that is bulletproof.
yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of vinyl flooring is crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
There's some in my kitchen, and I hate it.
What do you hate about it,
Always
Matt?
looks dirty. That's the main thing. And I didn't care about that flooring at all. When we bought the house, the first thing I did was move the fridge from one part of the kitchen to another. I was like, I don't care if it scratches the floor. And it just tore gouges in it immediately. I mean, it just wasn't, it's just not very,
tough.
This particular stuff is
Yes.
not very tough. Yep.
I've had it. My folks had it in their kitchen growing up, and I'm not a fan either. It wears, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have something that can wear and then be fixed, like a hardwood floor.
Well, also, there's the patina factor. You know,
Yeah.
an engineered or a hardwood floor is going to get a patina that sort of brings character to it. Whereas when vinyl starts getting scuffed, it looks
worn out.
It just looks worn out. So it doesn't age well.
I would agree. Laminate, I have it in the upstairs of the barn because it was like among the least expensive options that was not carpet. And it sucks. It scratches easy. You can't move furniture like without damaging it. It has this sound that just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sounds cheap.
It sounds cheap. The next one is hollow core doors.
No.
Oof, hate them. I sometimes put them in, but do
Yeah.
not like them.
I don't like them either. I like installing them because they're super light.
Yeah. The issues that I had with them in my house is that they all swelled so much in the summer.
They're not supposed to do
And
that.
yeah, you would think that they're not supposed to
And
do
they're
that.
painted. They're finished.
Yeah, they were,
Really?
but I've taken them out now.
You have Luan, right? They were Luan.
Probably.
I mean,
didn't
they're
cut 'em
wood.
open.
They look like wood.
They look like wood.
Yeah.
They look like, I mean, they have sort of like a grain pattern in them. They're very light, though, when you when you take them down, or just when
yeah.
you try to open and close them. They open and close really easily. But yeah, they would just swell, and I replaced them with solid doors and I haven't had that problem.
And you bought used doors, right?
They weren't used, but they were misordered, I think. And
So
so
they
they
were-
were new. They were still wrapped. They're Brosco doors, but they're solid. And yeah, I got them real cheap at a place that does like this kind of stuff, reclaimed doors and misordered doors and windows.
And there's one of those in every city virtually. Look for Habitat Restores and architectural salvage, I think is what you want to.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use hollow core doors because you can often find doors. And if you had some time and some chops, you can hang them on jambs and have a much nicer thing.
The other thing is sound. I mean,
That's the point I was going to make.
especially on like a bedroom or bathroom, you know?
They're useless at stopping noise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And inevitably, someone's going to fling it open and the doorstop is going to go right through it, which is fun to fix because it always looks. The hotel room I stayed at this past few days had a hollow core door in the bathroom that someone had opened into the rope hook, and you could see the Bondo patch.
Right.
They didn't even like try to match the grain. They
I'm
just like
sure,
put
right.
the Bondo right over it. Terrible. Okay, next, Particleboard cabinet boxes.
I guess it depends what you have in there. But if they get wet, They are going to swell, and it's going to be a mess.
Yeah. And your take?
Well, I have them. My face frames are wood, but the
Yep.
boxes are. And,
Me too.
You know, they're heavy, but they're not expensive.
Right.
But also well, mine have like a vinyl on them, so it's like a photo of a wood almost on the
Yes.
sides, you know. So I like wood. I'd rather have plywood cabinets.
I would too. I think on the list, particle board cabinets are better than other things because once they're in place, and as Matt suggests, if they don't get wet, they're fine. But
Yeah.
especially a sink base.
My sink base rotted out
Yeah.
totally. I had a leak, didn't know about it.
Yeah. So mine is I talked about replacing my faucet. Right. For a long time, it was leaking onto the deck, which inevitably makes its way to the bottom of the cabinet, and it's all blistered in the bottom of the cabinet because of that. And our first home we bought, same deal. Kitchen sink base, made of particle board. At the time, I was working at this lumber yard that had a millwork shop, and the guys were pretty handy. And I brought this box in, and the guy said, "The dumpster's over there." But he fixed it for me anyway. He didn't want to, but he did.
You know, I also think there are some places to get cabinet boxes, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think Cab Parts is one.
Yep.
You can get plywood boxes that you assemble yourself.
And they're much less expensive than...
Right. You know, 'cause some people just get the boxes and do the face frames and doors themselves or,
Yeah.
or not. But, you know, I think there are options out there if you can afford it.
Make your own.
There's that option.
It is. We had that conversation a couple episodes ago, and it's appealing and inexpensive, but it is a huge time suck.
Yeah, you need space. I have a backyard shop. Doesn't work.
Yeah, you and I are both working outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're lucky, under one of those pop-up tents, right?
Yeah, when it doesn't blow over.
I love that. Next on the list is MDF trim. MDF trim's fine. Obviously, you can't stain it, and it shows. Fastener puckers pretty bad, but if you can figure that out, it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just the idea of like working with it. You don't get the satisfaction that you do with wood.
Right.
So
Forget coping.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely, like you said, paint grade, but it doesn't. I don't know when you have to like fix it or make a repair. Like I don't know.
Yeah. It's second best.
Oh, for sure.
It's cheap. That's a plus.
Yeah, but there are plenty of places for it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially like for the, I don't know, if you're doing
Well, you
like
just saw
wainscot.
it.
Yeah, if you're doing like wainscot or something like that, or and
Built-ins?
Yeah, built-ins, things like that. But yeah, I just saw a guy do MDF returns. So like instead of drywall returns,
Yep.
he was using MDF for that part of the window box, and it cuts extremely straight, so you don't have that weird wacky joint against the window to tape, and it looked great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good spot for it.
I think I agree. It's great for most times. Forget using it outdoors. That should go without saying, right?
Yeah, Medex. No.
So that's really not. I mean,
Yeah.
Matt mentions Medex, which is a lightweight MDF sheet product, and when it first came out, people said you could use it outdoors, but
no.
it's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They
it
do
is
make
a little more. Yeah.
They do make outdoor or exterior grade MDF, but it's a special thing. He asked, what do you think the following generation will think when they're tearing out these materials out of homes? Well, we know. They're going to say, oh, we've seen this before. It's kind of crappy. I've completely remodeled 2 houses now and have ripped out hardwood, cabinets, millwork, and doors that have been in place for 50 years. I have a hard time believing that today's common materials will last that long. I think you're right. How can I, and should I even try to convince my wife to spend more money on materials that will stand the test of time, that knowing that we will only be in the house 3 to 5 years?
Oh, that's a big one right
Yeah,
there.
I know.
mean,
Yeah.
if you know you're leaving, how can you justify it unless you want to pass along something of value to somebody that you can't really get a return on necessarily?
And do you
Yeah.
want to live with crappy stuff for 3 to 5 years? Like, why do anything?
Well, okay, but let's just say he's redoing all the trim on his windows and he uses MDF and paints it. Whether you did it in wood or MDF, for those 5 years, you're probably not going to know. It's not until it starts wearing and getting beat up and you have to repair it and repaint it that those materials will start showing their, just like we were talking about the patina before. These engineered products don't patina well.
Right.
they don't. It doesn't really become part of their character. The products seem broken and used.
Yeah, they're worn out.
Worn out.
I wouldn't cheap on flooring because everybody wants nice flooring, and I know recent real estate sales that I know about have been held up because of or negotiated because of bad flooring. So, live with something you like and
Live
make
with
it
something
good.
you like, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think your approach is right, though. It's like if you know you're selling in 5 years, talk to a real estate agent. What are the important things? If
Yeah.
it's floor, tile in the granite countertops. I mean, you kind of got to go with that formula unless you just want to make it for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
In which case, maybe you'll stay at the next house longer and make that one out of wood.
Right.
Yeah, the big thing is don't spend a lot of money on stuff that somebody else who comes in after you is just going to say, I don't like that, and is going to rip it out anyway.
Right.
Like, just get something that you like, I guess, that you want to deal with.
And
But
you can't predict what someone else is going to like.
that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I see all these houses. I have like a Google alert, or not a Google alert, like an alert set up on Zillow, and it just shows all these houses. And I see them come up. I'll see like an old house come up for like, real cheap, and then somebody buys it and to flip it, and they've put all these finishes in there. And my first thought is always, the first thing I would do is rip out that new flooring they put in, rip out that terrible backsplash, rip out that tile they did in the bathroom, because they're I don't know where they're getting their ideas from, but they're spending all this money on stuff that just is hideous. So don't put all this stuff in thinking you're going to up the resale value necessarily of the house or anything like that, because it may not be of value to the next person.
It might just be hideous.
Yeah.
Sort of a broader perspective on this is because I hear it a lot, like carpenters they used to use this or used to use that. Well, think about it. When you used to shop for building supplies, what was on the shelves or available to you were woods cut down regionally, like solid woods. Today, when you go shopping, whether you do it online or go to the store, products are different. Like, we're not cutting down forests the way we were before. Everything's engineered. Like, it's sort of like what are people going to think in 50 years when they look at this? They'll be like, man, they used to have MDF. I wish I had that, and they're using, who knows what they're
Right.
using.
Yeah, bug
They're-
exoskeletons.
Well, 3D printed, like their ink fell apart or whatever, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you gotta, what are we comparing ourselves to?
Totally. Yeah. I know.
yeah,
How much
the-
time we have, Jeff?
Another 10 minutes, maybe.
Oh, good. I thought we were running out of time. We got another question here. Hey, guys, big fan of the show. I came to finish carpentry in a backwards kind of way. Well, welcome to the club. I started woodworking about 15 years ago and have slowly started doing more and more DIY projects for friends and family. I find myself more and more interested in building science and less interested in improving my hand-cut dovetails or another 5 methods to sharpen a chisel. He alludes to a magazine that he might have learned these chisel sharpening methods.
I can't imagine what it would be.
Starts with fine woodworking. Any opportunity to make fun of fine woodworking is good in my book. My question is, had anyone on the show gone through a similar transition, and do they have any specific advice for the switch? I feel like the more typical DIY to woodworking transition is obvious. So he's suggesting that most people start out being carpenters and start making furniture or whatever. This transition is obvious. Slow down, hold yourself to tighter tolerances, buy unneeded expensive tools. And I'm wondering if there's any good tips for learning where to focus on efficiency, where to focus on dialing in perfect while doing finished carpentry projects. Either way, love the show. Keep it up. This is from Brian.
So with that last part of the question, is he relating the green building stuff to finish carpentry? Like, I don't know. Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, what's the connection there? Like,
So he wants to presumably make money or produce things at the rapidity with a carpenter would, right? And he's used to making things that are entirely different tolerances, right? When you're doing a dovetail drawer box, that's the thing, right? Whereas building a house is a whole bunch of things, and they have to have a reasonable time frame for the project to get completed. So he wants to know how to look at his work and decide what's important and what isn't. I'm assuming. What do you think, Jeff? You're looking like you grasp this better than any of us.
Well, no, actually, I was off somewhere else.
Well, here,
Sliding dovetail studs. I don't know.
here's what I was trying to glean out of this, or what I am getting out of it, is he's talking about the focus on efficiency, right? So it sounds like he's starting to think of the house as a system, right? He's more interested in how does this house function as a system?
So let me tell you, I didn't take it that way, and we'll talk about both ways, right?
Okay.
We'll talk about your way first. So he's talking about building efficiency or energy efficiency or
it's
resource efficiency.
It sounded like he started out being really interested in the detail, and now he's thinking of the house as assemblies. Is it right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Because somebody who thinks of the house, who knows the house as a system, won't do anything accidentally
To mess it up.
So it may not change the way you put in the crown molding, unless, God forbid, that was somehow air sealing the transition
Right.
from sealing the wall.
Right.
But maybe before he put it up, he'd make sure that it was taped or caulked, let's say.
Yep.
So I guess the question to me isn't that clear what's going on here.
Well, I think that's a good thing. So what would you tell someone how to learn the bigger picture, right? It's probably a good chance that he's good at carpentry if he's making furniture, right? Or at least using the tools.
Sure.
So to get the rest of the package, to be knowledgeable about the house as a system or the other components that go into it, what do you think we should do to get that part? Listen to this show.
GBA, become a member.
Yeah. GBA.
Yeah. I don't know that there's a. Yeah. Where else do you pick up that stuff?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, you just got to read a lot.
Read a lot. Joe Steebrook, we've been talking about it.
Yeah.
I think this guy's Canadian. Seem to be getting Canadian questions today. Yeah, I read everything. Well, not everything, because you can't trust a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Read the good stuff.
Get a copy of ASHRAE Fundamentals. No.
Yeah, I don't know what to. That part is hard.
Yeah.
As far as like learning to be a carpenter, and like my assumption was he was talking about like, how do I know what matters with regard to the craft and what doesn't really matter? You know what I mean? Like, if you're making a piece of furniture, it's all on display. Like, in a house, in order to get the thing finished, you can't put the same amount of attention on every dovetail for the sake of comparison, right? Like, some stuff just needs to be finished. And I didn't like furniture making for that reason, because it's too fussy. I know what like appropriate tolerances are for carpentry, and they vary by the project. Some stuff is kind of rough. Some stuff is furniture grade, but that's determined by the project and the client's budget, not your own needs.
Sure. You know what's funny though is like to really dial in an air seal on a house, you do have to be fussy. It's not, you're not using a micrometer to check your caulk, but I mean, guys are having trouble.
Precise.
Guys are having trouble with their crews. They got to, builders or designers, architects need to be on site often to witness what's going on. So,
and there are other things like that. Your roof can't be shoddy. Your flashing cannot be shoddy. These things have to perform the way they are meant to, right? Yeah. Like, trim is caulked, right? Most projects are painted and the trim is caulked because it's not perfect, and
and houses are moving a lot.
And houses are moving
a lot.
And you need to, like, if you're remodeling, work with conditions that you can't fix.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you're not going to tear down the house to straighten it so you can put up the crown molding tight to the ceiling. No, you're going to make it work. You're going to fill it with caulk, or you're going to have the drywaller come in and float the ceiling down at some other point, or, I think that stuff is dictated by the job and the budget.
Hey, Matt, what did you think he was asking? Since we both sort of had a slightly different take.
Yeah, it seemed like he's been, I don't know. I think you guys both kind of got to it. But yeah, I mean, I just thought that he was, he's basically a furniture maker. He used to be really interested in getting all those really fine, like, aesthetic details correct. And now he's more interested in, like, the overall way that the house works and making sure that he gets the energy efficiency, green building part of it right. Not necessarily the aesthetics, but he's also going to be doing the woodworking stuff on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, my own journey, since I've been working here and learning about all this stuff, is incorporating things into what I'm doing, and I'm currently remodeling my house. So as I've gotten older, I've slowed down a little. My finish work has gotten better. I also have a better sense of what matters and what doesn't matter, I think. That just comes from experience.
Yeah.
But the knowledge of thinking of the house as a system has really changed my perspective, and it's sort of, I just feel freer. I don't know, being a tradesperson on a home where you come in like, oh, I'm going to make this door just perfect, and like there's something so cool about that. And obviously the architect or designer probably chose a door that fits in well with the whole house, but to some extent you're sort of working in your own little private bubble.
Yes.
When you go in as a specialty trade.
Sure.
And just having the knowledge of the whole house system sounds like he'll get into general remodeling.
Yeah, and he'll understand it better than 90% of the people out there. This question was meaningful to me. So you guys know I started at Taunton working at Fine Woodworking magazine, and I'd come from a home building magazine, and I needed a job, so I was like, well, this is a little different for me, but it's wood. It's going to be fine. And I hated it. I just don't like the fussiness of it, and I wondered if Brian was coming from the same perspective. Like, you start to question, like, is all of this really worth it? At the end of the day, I want to see, like, walls, like lots of square footage of stuff happening. I value that way more than a precise fit of a dovetail, for example. I like seeing production, things happening. So I get where you're coming from, Brian, I think. But if we missed it, let us know, and we'll try and do a better job second time around.
Well, I wonder if, like, what he's trying to get at, though, is that all that little stuff that doesn't really matter nearly as much as, like, the tightness of the house and everything. Like,
the
that's
performance
big picture.
Yeah.
Performance is big picture. All that little aesthetic stuff, it's just like, putting a vanity license plate on a on a high performance car.
Yeah.
It doesn't really affect its performance at all.
Yes.
I think that's a good way to think about it. Yeah. If it could be beautiful, but if the WRB is leaking water into the walls, that doesn't matter at all, right? It has to perform on one level, and that part I really get jazzed about, like making a house work well.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna cut my dovetail drawer boxes, I got to tell you, for cabinetry.
That's fun too, though.
Do you think?
I like it. I've done it a little bit. The thing is, once you've practiced it enough, like it does go quickly.
I know.
Or
For
you
somebody
can just use
else.
a router.
So the guys at Fine Woodworking would say that's not a dovetail drawer box.
Yeah. I've never actually used a router for those, but
I've seen Norm do it.
yeah.
Yeah, they look different, right? So the Fine Woodworking ones are super slim, and they look like dovetails from hundreds of years ago, right? Whereas the router cut ones, they sure might perform well, but they don't look the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's plenty of opportunity to buy expensive tools, Brian, in the carpentry trade as well, and so you can take some comfort in that.
Yeah. Buy a lull.
Buy a lull. I say buy lots of nail guns, because if you think joinery is fun, cutting dovetails, wait till you have a framing nailer. You guys have anything to add to this?
I think not.
Nope.
All right.
Exhausted.
How about you, Jeff?
Nope.
All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks to Matt, Colin, and Jeff for joining me, and thanks to all of you for listening. I forgot he was on the show for a sec because we
Right
taped
here,
two.
Right here.
Sorry, buddy. And thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send us your questions at fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And please like, comment, or review us however you're listening. It helps other folks find our podcast. Keep craft alive, and happy building.